Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tristar Gym channel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about regarding. I'm going to wait for a few of you to get into the chat room. And today we're going to talk about how to train regarding, everything about regarding, be on the bottom in jiu-jitsu. We're going to nerd out. Okay, this is not going to be one of those episodes where we talk about a lot of fitness and diet and stuff like that. Today we're going to be talking about specific jiu-jitsu stuff. So if you're into jiu-jitsu, I think you're going to love this episode. If you're not into jiu-jitsu, this one you might want to skip because we're going to be talking about a lot of jiu-jitsu. Now, we might hit some other topics down the line, but we are definitely going to talk a lot about jiu-jitsu in this episode. And of course, in future episodes, we'll touch on many other topics. But tonight's topic is all about jiu-jitsu and mainly the guard, and even more specifically, guard pass prevention. So for you jiu-jitsu nerds, my fellow jiu-jitsu nerd brothers out there, let's talk about guard pass prevention and all that good stuff. And then later on, maybe after a little bit, we can take it in different directions. But I really want to focus on guard pass preventions because I have some really good news for you all. I know I was supposed to come out with my second instructional around the summertime. However, like I've said before, I had a horrible flood at my house, and I'm still to this day still in the construction. So everything got pushed back. And of course, I'm always traveling like usual. But when I come home to construction, there's plenty of people working in my house all day long. And my routine was just completely disturbed. That's why I'm doing these podcasts right now at night. Normally, I'm supposed to do them during the day between practices. But unfortunately, during the day, there's too much work going on in my house, too much noise. And I'm doing everything at night. So that's why I had to put the instructionals on hold. But happily, I'm here to happily report to you all that my newest instructional, guard pass prevention, Zahabi's favorites, guard pass prevention video is now out and live on jujiclub.com. That sign you keep seeing flashing over my head all the time, jujiclub.com, has finally received its second instructional, which is months and months behind. But I promise you the next one is going to come, probably in the new year. And I promise you it won't take me as long. Things are on their way. I'm almost finished construction of my house, and hopefully I'll be back to my regular routine very shortly. And all right, guys, let's open it up. Let's start talking about guard pass prevention. Actually, before we start, let me show you guys the video we shot. We did a very short, very tiny preview of the guard pass prevention video I just released now. Zahabi's pass prevention favorites. Okay, so here's a quick little look at it. Hold on one second here. You guys should be getting the feed right now. There it is. New instructional is now out. And here's me doing the double hooks. I feature it in the video as well. It's one of my favorite maneuvers to stop somebody from pressure passing, somebody who's trying to put their weight on you, trying to knee slide. I often go to the double hooks. Not always. Sometimes I go to the reverse De La Riva, lockdown De La Riva, but I oftentimes go to the double hooks, which is also featured in the video. There's a snare trap, a maneuver that I love to use to get into leg locks when somebody tries to pass my guard. I typically will go into leg lock mode, and the way that I flow into leg lock mode is with the snare trap. There's some more double hooks actions. Here's a few concepts that are put into the video. When your opponent's trying to pass your guard, what exactly does he need to do to pass your guard, and how to stop him from getting there, and lots of how to stop the getting smash pass from the bottom. So that's a quick little look at the preview I just released today for you guys, for those of you who are interested in preventing your guard from being passed. So with that said, I want to hear your comments and questions about the guard training and guard pass prevention. And this is a topic that I love very much. I spend a lot of time on my guard. And I'm going to get into that why later. But before that, I want to hear from you guys. What is your comments and questions on playing guard? This is from Shinidu. Shinidu asks, stretches for people who can't invert. You know what? I don't really do stretches for inverting. What I do is I do a drill for inverting, and I should have it probably in a video sooner or later. But basically what I do is I have my partner stand up, and I kind of invert through his legs all the way around, like 360 degrees just between his legs. It's going to be hard for me to describe, but I have to make a video, and I find that little drill does more for me than stretching. because it's more of a mobility drill. You're gonna get more flexible. You're gonna get more mobility. Definitely, you're gonna be able to move better when you're inverting. But I don't spend a lot of time stretching when I train. I do more mobility stuff, and I feel that it's far more effective than just stretching. Okay, what else we got here? Coach, can you tell us some concepts about guard pass prevention? That's from Frankie Sharp. Yes, some guard pass prevention, I find it really comes down to the grips. Okay, so when I'm fighting with somebody and I'm on the bottom, I have to dominate the grip. If I don't dominate the grip, I have to know how to break their grip and keep pummeling. I won't engage you really until I have the grips that I want. If you get the grips that you want, I have 1,001 ways to break your grips. Okay, so I do go over in the video. I do go over how to break grips. In the second, in volume 2, I'm going to go over more grip breaks, definitely. But I find that grip breaks is something people don't get excited about. People are like, "Oh, that's just it's not a throw, it's not a sweep, it's not a choke," and people kind of they're less excited by grip breaks. But the thing is, grip breaking is really where it's at. That's where the fight happens. If you cannot get your grips, you cannot get your passes, and you cannot get your subs. So I really believe grip breaking is something that a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners overlook. They don't understand the importance. And I'm the type of guy, I like to have 1,001 ways to break every grip. And if you can't get to your grip, I just never worry. I don't worry about you. You're never going to get a pass or you're never going to get a sub. It's the guys who know how to grip fight. Those are the guys I really worry about. The guys with a good grip and they know what they're doing. And that's what jiu-jitsu is all about. Jiu-jitsu is all about getting that grip. And I shouldn't say it's all about getting the grip, but that's a major component. And grip fighting is something that I think is heavily, heavily undervalued. Okay, let's see what else we got here. What level is instructional? Oh, that's from Nathan Bell. Well, you know what? I would say if you're blue belt and up, you'll benefit from it. You white belts, I think, are gonna have a little bit of trouble, but there are some. I would say half of the video instructional, I should say, is can be followed by a white belt. But there's some stuff in there that's just too complicated for a white belt. But if I was a white belt, I would get it. Why? Because that's, I'll get to the other half shortly. Like if you're really dedicated to jiu-jitsu and if you're a white belt and you're very enthusiastic about jiu-jitsu, I get it. But if you're somebody who's a white belt and you're just doing jiu-jitsu once, twice a week, it's probably too much for you. Just go get something that's really basic, a really intro to jiu-jitsu type video. This is not an intro to jiu-jitsu. Definitely not. Okay. Even though there are some very easy to do maneuvers, it quickly gets complicated and it's just too much for a white belt. So I would say blue belts and up. What else we got here? As a beginner, I feel I work too hard to both pass the guard and to stop passing. That's from Brad Diakanu. Brad, that's a great point. Especially if you're on the bottom, you're gonna work hard. Why? Because you have to carry your opponent's weight. You're trapped between your opponent's weight and the ground. So you really need to know what you're doing. And I feel that I always like to teach guard first, the bottom guard first. Why? Because the bottom man is, he's setting traps. He's the one with all the booby traps. When you're passing the guard, I'm going to tell you a bunch of things. You're not going to understand why you're doing them unless you understand the bottom guy's strategy. So for instance, when I make you pass the guard, I want you to avoid triangle. I want you to avoid omoplata. I want you to avoid armbar. But you don't know why I'm telling you all these details. I'm making a fuss about why your hand should be here, why your weight should be there, why you have to remain postured. And I'm telling you this because I want you to avoid the snares, the triangles, the omoplatas, the butterfly guard sweeps. You don't know the minefield. You can't really pass effectively. That's why I like to teach the bottom game. And then after I teach the bottom game, I find the person understands a lot more how to pass the guard. They understand why we're passing this particular way because they know they've seen all the booby traps that could be. And I think that's the advantage of learning bottom game first. Now, when you learn the bottom game, I'm all about, some teachers are not like this, but I'm all about not carrying the top man's weight. If I'm carrying the top man's weight, something is wrong with my technique. If I'm really lifting the guy if I'm on the bottom and I'm carrying you, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. I need a better method. And in my opinion, it goes totally against the principles of jiu-jitsu. The principles of jiu-jitsu are all about redirection and deflection and leverage. If I have leverage, fine, I'll go toe-to-toe with you. But if I don't have any leverage, I have to mold myself around you. I have to deflect you. I have to redirect you. I have to find a way where you can't use your strength against me, right? That's the whole, the entire maxims of jiu-jitsu. And I'm big on that. And I find it's more sensitive when you're on the bottom, because if you're on top and your technique's not 100% right, well, you're not punishing your opponent as much as you could be. However, you're still on top. You're still punishing your opponent. You're still the one putting your weight on your opponent. If you're on the bottom and you don't know what you're doing, the whole game can collapse. You know, your guards will get passed. You'll get smashed on the bottom. And I don't enjoy jiu-jitsu when I'm getting suffocated. You know, when I'm on the bottom suffocating, I'm getting crushed. I don't really enjoy that, you know, and I'm glad I'm past those years where I just get suffocated. And, you know, we all go through that patch where you're rolling and you just get suffocated, and you're rolling and you're just getting crushed and mounted, and you're getting like pancake smashed, and it's such a horrible feeling. But you like jiu-jitsu so much, and you're seeing that it's not happening to those other guys, and you're wondering, how do they prevent this? And then eventually you figure it out. Eventually you get better and better. And then jiu-jitsu really starts to get fun. Jiu-jitsu is fun when there's lots of cool transitions, when you're going through lots of cool sequences. And you don't know where this match is going to end up. And it's kind of like a chess game. You know, there's so many possibilities. And my partner chose this option, and I'm going to choose this one. And we keep countering each other till one gets the better of the two. And it's a lot of fun. However, when you're just carrying somebody on top of you and you're just being completely smashed, it's definitely not fun. And it's even worse when their gi is open and they have the chest hair, and they're not big on bathing and cleaning themselves, and you're underneath and then you're getting smashed. That's just the worst. And I've been there, okay? And I want to make sure that I never have to do that again the rest of my career, because those were the worst days, no doubt about it. Abductor machine for guard. No, not really. Honestly, I don't use abductor machine for guard. I use a lot of general leg exercises, like sprinting, plyometrics, swings, lunges, sandbag lifts. I don't use the adductor machine, the one where you're doing that. I have nothing against it. I just personally don't use it. If you find that it helps you with tight muscles or whatnot, it makes sense. I don't have one in my gym, so I don't use it. When I do go to gyms and they have it, I never use it. I don't think it's bad. I just personally never use that. I use a lot of gymnastic exercises that also work the abductors and adductors. And gymnasts don't use it, so I feel like I'd rather use the gymnast exercise than some bodybuilding machine. I find it's more functional. But I hear you that, the groin muscles and they get tight when you play a lot of guard. I think it's important to work them, but I prefer to use gymnastic type exercises. Julian David knows about getting smashed with the chest hair. I hope you're still referring to jiu-jitsu there, Julian. But yes, definitely a horrible phase of jiu-jitsu that is better avoided. And that's why you guys are lucky. You're gonna get this DVD and you're gonna avoid this type of horrific experience. Sweeps or submissions from guard. What's important to focus on? That's from David Sanelli. Well, you know what? That's a great question. I always tell people that I'm training, my students, I always tell them, first, find where he's leaning. If he's leaning to the right, I'm sweeping him right. If he's leaning to the left, I'm sweeping him left. If he's pushing forward, I'm sweeping him up over my head. If he's leaning back, I'm getting up with an ankle pick, a snap down, or a forward attacking maneuver. Okay, so I'm always following your weight. I'm always finding the current. I always say, you have to go with the current. And then I decide what move I'm going to do. So a lot of times people grab onto you. They're on the bottom. They grab onto you and they decide they want to throw you to their left. And they're just hell-bent on throwing you to their left. That's it. They've made their mind up, and it doesn't matter how you react. I find that's just a difficult way to make maneuvers work. Moves don't work. Okay, moves don't work. I always say no jiu-jitsu move works. It's always a combination of moves. So excuse me, if I sweep you left and you lean away from me to the right, I'm going to combine it with a right side sweep. I'm going to change direction on you. Okay, so I have to use a combination of moves to beat a seasoned opponent. Okay, now of course, if the guy I'm fighting has a white belt and he doesn't know anything, I can probably just grab onto him and sweep him left, whether he likes it or not, you know, and even then it might not work. However, when you're fighting a seasoned opponent, it usually comes down to a combination of maneuvers. Okay, a combination of maneuvers. And it's that action reaction dynamic. So when I grab onto somebody, I always try to feel first which way are they taking the fight. Are they moving away from me? Well, then I'm going to push. Are they pushing into me? Well, I'm going to pull. Are they leaning right? Well, I'm throwing them right. So once I get my grips with them, once I grab onto them, I try to feel where they're going, and I try to push them in the direction of the current. Whatever the way the current is going, that's where I want to push them. So first I feel where the current is going, then I decide on the technique. Whereas most practitioners in the lower levels, their thinking is flipped, right? They're trying to force a move on you. Why? They learn the move and then they go out in the mat and they want to use it, which makes sense. However, you quickly learn later on that it doesn't really work that way. You have to be a little bit more flexible, mentally speaking, and you got to go with the direction your opponent is taking you. That's why if I'm in guard, I better know, I better be able to take you in the 8 directions. You know, Kano used to refer to the 8 directions. You have north, south, east, west, and then you have northeast, north, south, etc. You have 8 directions. Okay, so wherever you're leaning, that's where we're going. And in this video, this instructional I'm putting out, I don't show any real sweeps. It's just really how to regard. Somebody's trying to knee slide. Here's how you redirect him. And here's how you get back to your guard. Somebody's trying to underhook you and bring you down. Well, here's how you stop that. It's really about the grips and blocking the person's forward momentum. Now, in reverse de la Riva lockdown instructional, I show you how to sweep. Okay, so the 2 videos go really well together. I'm going to make a volume 2 for lockdown, the reverse de la Riva lockdown, and I'm going to make a volume 2 of my favorite regard techniques, because the volume 1 is not, I can do 10 volumes on regarding. There's so much to know about regarding, but I want to keep the video fun, so I didn't go too much into grip breaking. I did do a very good chunk of grip breaking, but the second one will have even more grip breaking because it's so key. But when you're playing guard, the number one thing you got to do is keep guard. You cannot let somebody pass your guard. Once somebody passes your guard, that's why I did in my career, I did so much guard pass prevention, a tremendous amount of guard pass prevention work. Why? Because if the guy can't pass my guard, it's inevitable that I'm either going to get back up to my feet, sweep him, or choke him. Putting away time. Like I was training for self-defense. I wasn't training for a 3-5 minute round or anything. In my mind, I was always training for self-defense early on. And if the guy cannot pass my guard, he cannot really hurt me. That's why we call it the guard, right? Your legs really protect you. So the guard is huge in a vale tudo fight. So what's a vale tudo fight? In the olden days in Brazil, they used to fight vale tudo. No time limit. Very little rules. And 2 guys fight to the end. And that's how jiu-jitsu techniques were really bred. They were bred in that kind of environment. Whereas wrestling techniques were bred in, 3 rounds of 2 minutes. Now, in 3 rounds of 2 minutes, you're going to fight very differently than if you have no time limit. Okay, so sprinting is more, it's more aggressive, whereas jiu-jitsu is more of an endurance martial art. Some fights, actually, most fights lasted hours. I shouldn't say most fights. It wasn't uncommon that fights lasted for hours. It was not uncommon that fights in Vale Tudo lasted for hours. So when you were in the guard, the guy on the bottom was not considered losing. Today, what happens is 2 guys are fighting in an MMA fight. There's 3 rounds of 5 minutes. They're boxing for 2-3 minutes. Somebody gets a takedown. And there's maybe a minute and a half left. Okay. And, when he gets a takedown, maybe they're on the fence for a few seconds. And then all of a sudden there's a takedown, or, maybe he gets a quick double, whatever it is. There's not a lot of time. There's only about 2 minutes of fighting on the ground. Okay. In that one round, referring to that one round. Now, typically it will be like, okay, the guy on the bottom lost. Why? He got taken down. And he got put on his back. In Vale Tudo, that didn't matter. So what? You got on top of me. And so what? You took me down. The fight is not over. The guard will kind of bake the top man. You kind of hold him, break his posture. You can hit him from the bottom. If he couldn't pass your guard, it was considered a neutral position. the guy on the bottom would typically win in Vale Tudo days. Why? Because if you cannot pass my guard, you probably can't really, and especially if the guy on the bottom is really good at stopping punches, the man on top is spending more energy. The man on believe it or not, okay, and I've done a lot of ground and pound in my day, and I've done a lot of striking on the ground. If there's an unlimited amount of time, the guy on the bottom is actually in a more relaxed position. He's actually can relax more. If we're talking about the fights lasting for hours, I'm not talking about, toughing it out for a few minutes. That's a whole different game. When we're talking about no time limit, the guy on the bottom can be elbowing, the guy on the bottom can be slapping, the guy on the bottom can be punching, and he can stay very relaxed. Why? Especially when we kind of climb our legs up over your back, you're really stuck in my guard. Whereas in MMA, you just kind of tough it out for a minute or two and just kind of give a few punches and finish strong, and the judges give you the round. But the truth of the matter is, if these fights would go on and there was no time limit, a lot of them would end differently. A lot of fights in MMA history would have ended differently if there was no time limit. And the reason why is because the guard is a very efficient and relaxed position. Now, it's not to say that being on top is not dangerous. If the guys, two fighters that are equally skilled, and two fighters of equal skill, okay, equal skill, equal athleticism, everything's the same, except fighter A is on the bottom, fighter B is on top. If there's no time limit, personally, I would say it's kind of neutral. If there is a time limit, I would say that the guy on top has an advantage. Why? He's going to wow the judges a little more. Even though that, for me, in terms of Vale Tudo, doesn't mean much. In terms of Vale Tudo, because how many times in Vale Tudo did the guy on the bottom win? A lot, I would say a lot. And I used to watch old school Vale Tudo fights, okay? And a lot of times the guy on the bottom would win. It was just different. And of course, there were up kicks. Even if the guy's knees on the ground, you can up kick, which changes the ball game immensely. Okay. All right. So where are we at here? Guys, don't forget, for those of you tuning in just now, we're talking about the guard game. Okay. We're talking about guard. This is going to be a special video talking about guard pass prevention and guard playing. Okay. How do you prevent someone from gripping and breaking your grips from their legs when doing toreando? That's a great question. It's probably Kevin. That's first of all, thank you for being a supporter of this channel. Very appreciated, Kevin. When somebody grabs my pants and they want to do toreando, now this is a no-gi video, Kevin. This is a no-gi video, but I did do a video on my YouTube channel about guard pass prevention, where you grab the collar, cross collar grip. You could also grab your opponent when he grabs your pants. You can grab his sleeve. But this video is a no gi video, and I do cover toreando. How to stop somebody who grabs your legs, but now he's not grabbing your pants, he's just grabbing straight onto your ankles. And I also show you how to defend when somebody grabs your shin bones. They're not grabbing your ankles, and they want a toreando. So I did not cover gi. This is a no gi video. Okay, really, really important to mention. This is a no gi video. I've pretty much retired from the gi, Kevin. I'm not really interested in the gi. I think there are very few people in the world today that, if they asked me to put on the gi, I would put on the gi for them, for us to roll. And there are very, very few people. One of them, of course, would be John Denahar. If he asked me to, my trainer, the man who gave me my black belt, if he were to tell me, hey, put on the gi, I would do it. I wouldn't question him. However, there are very few other instances that would make me want to put on the gi. Right now, like I think I won't put on the gi until at least another few years, and then I'll go back to the gi. It's gonna take me a while to miss it, and I'll tell you why. I'm finding so much more. I'm learning right now as I'm rolling. I feel like I reached a point where I'm kind of like innovating my techniques. Like I'm really getting to know my style, and I know it's kind of weird because I've been a black belt for a while now, and but I still feel like I'm really starting to understand no-gi finally. Like it's getting clearer to me, and it's kind of weird, but I feel like I'm improving my no-gi. And if I put the gi on, I would kind of lose a few of these details that I'm really focused on now. And I feel like I'm really hitting my stride now. I'm starting to really understand the nuances of no-gi. It's totally different, in my opinion, now from gi. Things that I didn't notice in the past, I'm starting to notice now. So I really want to stay focused on no-gi, but I do definitely cover stopping toreando. Of course, I have to, because toreando is one of the most popular and successful guard pass maneuvers. This is from Yursil. How can a beginner practice moves at home without a partner? Um, well, it's kind of tough. I'll be honest with you. I really recommend you do get a partner. But if you absolutely have nothing else, maybe you invest in one of those grappling dummies. I've worked with a little bit. I've worked with a grappling dummy a little bit because I had a guy from the gym make one, and we had it in the gym for a while, and I would try it, but I wasn't motivated to work with the grappling dummy. I honestly just wasn't motivated to work with a grappling dummy. I would do. It's weird. I train with Gia Saudi. Gia Saudi is a world champion in freestyle wrestling, and he used to make us do a lot of shadow wrestling. So just like a boxer would shadow box, he used to make us shadow wrestle, and I felt that my wrestling got so much better. And it was weird. I found it so weird because at first I used to hate this. I used to hate our warm ups. He used to make us shadow wrestle, like he used to make us do maneuvers, and I was always thinking, why can't I just drill with one of the guys? Why do I have to do it in the air? And I started finding myself shadow wrestling on my own later on because I started getting better at wrestling by shadow wrestling, and then I started doing shadow jiu-jitsu just on my own on the mats. So I would find my days sometimes wanting to work out, but in the mornings, but not having a partner, before starting my routine, and I would shadow grapple. I would do just in my head, and then Silver Fox used to do it. Taught me, he does it in the pool, and I thought that makes sense. It's kind of like what Gia does. Gia's the wrestler I'm talking about, who's a world champion, and I was starting to do like shadow grappling, shadow wrestling, shadow boxing in one session, and I felt like my technique just really started getting better. So I would recommend shadow grappling, shadow wrestling, shadow boxing, as opposed to even using a dummy. But if you're motivated to use the grappling dummies, go ahead. I just personally was not motivated to use the grappling dummy. Avoiding the footlock after you stuff a guard pass. That's from Atom. Atom, that's a dangerous one. That's the catch 22. When you're preventing the guard pass, you're actually giving up your ankles a little bit. And so when I'm trying to pass the guard and somebody is blocking my guard pass, I usually threaten the ankle. And when they defend the ankle, I go back to the guard pass. And it's kind of like boxing, aiming for the head. They block the head, you hit the body. They block the body, you hit the head. I always like to say that the goalie, he can't cover the whole net. So what I would say to you is, one, you have to be aware of it. And two, you got to know how to break those those leg lock attack grips, the grips of the leg locker. Don't let him get a tight grip. If you give a good leg locker a strong grip on your foot, it could be a problem. Okay, it could be a major problem. So me personally, I like to fight the grips to the end. Like I master grip breaking. Okay, so as I'm defending the guard pass, once he initiates a grip on my ankle, I break that grip. I don't even allow him to isolate my leg. If he isolates my leg, it could be a big problem, especially if he's very strong and he knows what he's doing. So I did a video once on the cross ankle defense to leg locks. Check it out. Check my YouTube channel. Find the cross ankle leg lock defense. It's a gem, that one. I use it all the time, and I use it on really tough leg lockers. Okay, as soon as they try to grab my leg, I break the grip. I don't even go to any defenses. I just go straight to cross ankle and block his game. And once you drill the cross ankle a lot, you'll start you start prying your foot free even before he gets to his leg lock, and that's just a gem. That way I don't need to know all these complicated leg lock escapes, which I do know them, but I still feel that they're complicated, so things can go wrong. I prefer not to give him the ankle in the first place. So check out the cross ankle maneuver that I posted probably like a year ago. It's a gem. It's a real gem. Okay, what else we got here? We're talking today about guard pass prevention and guard in general. If I had time, I would triangulate every day, once or twice, BJJ and stand up. That's from Phil Melendez. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'm assuming you'd you like triangles. I'm not sure what that meant. I see the theory that drilling builds muscle memory. That's from Atom. Yes, of course, no doubt about it. Drilling will definitely do that. Guys, don't forget, we're talking about guard and guard pass prevention. I have today released a new instructional on guard pass prevention. I hope you guys forgive me for taking so long. I know I talked about it it was supposed to be released in the summer, but for those of you tuning in, I had a massive flood in my house, and my construction is still going on till today. And you guys might be wondering why did it take so long. Let me give you like just a little note. The city and the contractors could not figure out what happened, why the flood occurred, and I had several contractors come in, and they all gave me a different answer. And still to today, we're still kind of, we're closing in on exactly what happened, and lots of complications. Every contractor had a different story, so it's kind of like dealing with button pushers. And I love my button pushing friends, but sometimes you call them and you ask them, hey, the button's not. I pushed the button you told me to push, and it doesn't work. And then it seems like they don't even understand, and it's normal. Obviously, it's a complicated system, and they have to kind of figure it out. And then they call another button pusher that comes in, and he's not sure, and he calls another button pusher, and that's how I felt. It was one of those. This is not my area. I don't know exactly what they're saying to me. Even when they explained to me what happened, I still honestly didn't understand really what they were trying to tell me. But hopefully now, shortly, this will all be in the past, and I'm back to regular schedule. Can you be good on guard retention having short legs? Absolutely. That's from Quedes, my friend. Yes, absolutely. Look at the greats. Like, for instance, Marcelo Garcia. He did not have long legs. You do not have to have long legs or long limbs to play jiu-jitsu. Okay, so listen. There are advantages and disadvantages to having long limbs. So, for instance, you look at Marcelo Garcia. He's a guy with shorter limbs. He doesn't really do any arm triangles, right? Makes sense. When you do an arm triangle, it's kind of hard to wrap your arms around somebody's head and arm when they're kind of posturing out, right? So he was a guillotine guy. He was a butterfly guard sweeper. It makes a lot of sense if you're shorter to be a butterfly guard sweeper. In my opinion, it makes more sense because the longer your leg, the heavier it's gonna be. And when you're short, you can kind of scoot underneath. Like when I do a butterfly guard sweep, I like to scoot deep underneath, and I feel like when you're short, you can get underneath a little more, and it just kind of allows you to throw your opponent a little more. You look at guys with long limbs; they're big on triangle, they're big on arm triangles, they're big on katakatami. Like Abraulio Estima, for instance, he's a triangle master. He'll use a lot of the inverted triangles. But you won't see Marcelo do that. It kind of makes sense because to do inverted triangles, really you got to have long legs. Whereas Marcelo, he doesn't do really inverted triangles. He kind of plays the game that makes sense for him. That's why he's more of a guillotine guy, whereas he doesn't use arm in guillotine. Where if you work with a Hodger Gracie or if you see Hodger Gracie, he does do arm in guillotine. Makes sense. His arms are longer. He could reach across. So you got to tailor your game towards your body type. And definitely some of the hardest people to pass are people with short legs. But I would say it's those who are extremely flexible that are the hardest to pass. So long legs or short legs is not as big of a deal as how flexible are you. Because I've trained with guys who have shorter legs but are super flexible. And I find I have more trouble with the guys with those crazy legs, the guys who can put their legs behind their back. And I honestly, when I roll with somebody with crazy legs, I try not to pass their guard too much. I try to make them turtle. So when you have crazy legs, I'm either gonna footlock you. I might pass too. It depends how you're behaving. I more will leg drag and kind of take your back than pass to side control. When you got those crazy legs, I'm probably gonna footlock you or get your back somehow, either by turtling you or getting to a leg drag and kind of sliding underneath and going to the back. But if you got those crazy legs, it's hard for me to pass the guard. So I just go to I feel like when you're throwing your legs up like that, it's more easy for me to roll you to your knees, and from there I can attack you. What do you see against a power knee slide? Well, in the video, I specifically talk about knee slide prevention. Okay, so stopping the knee slide, and I go to the double hooks. Now, the double hooks is one of my favorite ways to stop a knee slide. If you master the double hooks, the thing is with the double hooks, when I show it to you, when you learn it for the first time, the first 2 weeks you're gonna feel a little bit weird. It doesn't feel right. Why? Because most people just can't. They're. I'll tell you something about jiu-jitsu. Okay, your jiu-jitsu is never gonna be strong. Okay, in my opinion, until your foot is like a hand. Like when your foot is like a hand, then all the jiu-jitsu stuff works. The butterfly guard sweep works. The De La Hiva guard sweep works. Everything is so perfect now. Oh, now I get what jiu-jitsu is like. Your foot has to become like a hand. So the double hook system that I use, which is a De La Hiva hook and a butterfly hook, you gotta have you have to have some experience. Your foot has to be kind of sticky, and that only comes with drilling it. So some people, they do it for the first time. They're like, oh, it's not working for me. Yeah, because you have to do it for 2-3 weeks. You don't have to do it for 2-3 years, but just 2 or 3 weeks, and eventually, it's going to be the easy way to stop somebody from passing your guard. Because when I'm blocking your ankle with my foot, that's the end of the lever. You can't really put your weight on me anymore, and from there I can attack you. So the double hooks is how I like to stop the knee slide. That's one of the ways I like to stop the knee slide. I also love to use the reverse De La Hiva lockdown system. I use that. That one's a gem because my feet are protected. He can't leg lock me. It's very, very hard for him to get to a leg lock. Plus, he can put all the weight he wants on me. He ain't gonna slide through. I also use the double hooks, like I said. Again, the feet are protected. He can drive as much as you want. He's not sliding through. And best of all, I can attack you back. Okay, now I can arm drag you. I can double hook, underhook. I can go to X guard. I can do so many great things. I can go and flow into leg locks, of course. And that's why I like the double underhooks, because it's not, I see a lot of teachers sometimes they show how to shrimp back. They show a lot of how to shrimp and push the guy back in your guard. That's good. But I also want to win the fight, So I want to push you back, but I also want to flow into something that'll put you on the defense. There's only so many times I can protect myself. Eventually, I want you to play defense and me to play offense. So when it comes to the knee slide, I go to double hooks. It's covered in the video, so you guys are going to enjoy that, I'm sure. Guys, don't forget, we are talking about regard. Best way to retain Z-guard. Well, Z-guard is a great guard. It's a fantastic guard. I don't really play too much Z-guard, okay? So I studied Z-guard for many years, and I've done Z-guard. And I have students that do Z-guard. Like I have Ethan Krelliston. He's a great Z-guard guy. He's fantastic at it. However, I personally don't play a lot of Z-guard. I think Z-guard is one of those things that's good for guys with really long legs. So I see a lot of guys with long legs, they like to play it. However, I think it's good. There's other guards that I prefer. So I think it's personal preference. Does it feel right to you? I like certain other guards. It just doesn't feel right to me. And I like it. I don't love it, if I could put it to you that way. So I didn't go into any Z guard at all in this video. Just didn't feel it fit in there. However, I do use Z-guard to shrimp back to the guards I like, but I don't fight from Z-guard per se. I don't fight a lot from Z-guard. I know a lot of guys do fight from Z-guard. I think it makes sense for those who feel like comfortable doing it. I just don't feel that. I don't feel like I have that aggression from Z-guard. It's not something that I find that I get working very much. This one's from Colin. Colin, thank you for being a member, of course. For us, what are your thoughts on Gi De La Hiva? On no Gi De La Hiva, excuse me. I do lots of no Gi De La Hiva. I do a variation of it. I call it the lockdown. So, but I definitely think De La Hiva is a great guard. Gi or no Gi, it's a phenomenal guard. And I find there's so much to do. I mean, the inverts you can do, the flows into leg locks. It's super hard to pass. When you're on the bottom, if you have a good De La Hiva, you can relax. You don't have to work hard. And I think it's good for MMA in training. So, for instance, like I'll explain to you my perspectives on guard in MMA. Okay, now, of course, a lot of the techniques we train, we won't do them in MMA. Okay, we won't do them in MMA. But because we've done those techniques, like let's say I've done years and years of De La Hiva. Okay, and doing years and years of De La Hiva, when I'm in a MMA sparring, I don't use De La Hiva. However, because of all my years of De La Hiva, I have like my legs are just, they move differently. It was a great exercise for my legs, for dexterity, for learning how to balance my opponent on my legs, like when he's pushing forward on me. Because don't forget, a lot of the maneuvers change, definitely, because he can hit me and I can hit him. So it changes how my opponent reacts. It changes how I react. However, because I have so much training in techniques that involve a lot of leg coordination, these techniques, a lot of these jiu-jitsu techniques that involve so much intricate leg work. My legs are like two other hands. Okay, so I'm blocking his punches with my hands, but I'm also using my legs like two other hands. And those legs are a lot smarter. They have a kind of a much better computer. They have a much better sensibility and coordination. And they do a much better job defending me and sweeping and attacking my opponent than if I didn't do any intricate, advanced leg work. Okay, so you want your legs to be really smart. You want your legs to have a mind of their own. You want your legs to be very active. You got to train them with these subtle type guards. And that's why I feel that I do them. It just makes my legs really smart. And sometimes when I'm fighting in MMA, I do crazy stuff that I never drilled before, but it's just because my legs are so experienced. They've done so many type of techniques that eventually I just kind of improvise. When I'm on the bottom, I find a way to off balance my opponent and execute. Because later on, as you get more experience, it's only going to become, it all comes down to, I got to get my opponent off balance. When he's off balance, all these moves work. Even the weakest moves work if my opponent is off balance. So when I'm fighting, I'm just thinking about getting you off balance. Once you're off balance, I don't care how athletic you are, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how much experience you have. If you are off balance, if I catch you off balance, you're going to go down. I'm going to sweep you. I'm going to sub you. I have to catch you off balance. So it's all about kind of like probing you, faking you, disrupting you, pulling and pushing you until you make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, I drop the guillotine. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Can I disturb your balance without you disturbing mine? Once I disturb your balance, all your athleticism and experience go out the window. It's time now for me to execute. So this is the heart of the matter. And I think over years and years of training, everybody kind of like figures it out. You kind of boil it down to this. Don't worry about all those techniques. Those were just examples. Those were just different ways that you can possibly off balance someone. When you go in the fight, just kind of find the one way that makes sense to you. Thoughts on Kron Gracie being signed to UFC? That's from Jeffrey Torgman. That's great. It's great. I know we're talking about guard, and that's a man with a great guard. So I'm really excited about hearing Kron Gracie's coming to UFC. I think that's going to be very interesting. I saw his fights in Japan, and if you guys want to see a great guard player, you look no further. Kron Gracie's got a phenomenal guard, and today's episode is on the guard. And that's just actually such a great example of what I was just saying. And his last fight, he... let's see if I can pull it up. He did some beautiful guard work. My goodness. He did some beautiful guard work that I wouldn't be surprised some of it was improvised. Why? Because he was just flowing with the go, like his father says. He was just kind of feeling what his opponent is doing, and he was just doing what makes sense at the time. Oh no, wait, hold on a second. That's the wrong video. Let me see. Kron Gracie versus... Let's see what we got here. All right, I think I pulled it up. I think we have his fight. Hold on a second. Let me see if it's going to play. Let me see if I can get his video to play. For some reason, it's not working. But, oh, there it is. Okay, here we are. Here we are, my friends. This is one of the best guard players in the world today. And he's signing with UFC, so I'm really excited to hear about this. And I'm not sure if it's official or not. I hope you're saying it's official, but I did hear a rumor that he's going to be signing with UFC. Very excited about this. And, he's a guard puller. For those of you who are big fans of the guard, Kron Gracie does pull guard. He pulled guard, I believe, in this fight as well. He's also a very gritty boxer. He's got a good athleticism to him. He's very tough. He moves forward, as you can see. He's a puncher. He doesn't do a lot of Muay Thai or kickboxing, it seems, but he's not scared to punch, and he's not scared to get punched. He's got that toughness to him, which is interesting because a lot of times you see great jiu-jitsu practitioners go into MMA, and they've been spoiled by jiu-jitsu. They've been doing jiu-jitsu on the nice soft mats, and you could tell they don't have that toughness to them. They got that desperation trying to get the fight to the ground. They have no setup to their striking, and they just kind of flop around. Not with Kron. Kron's got a good toughness, because the thing is, nowadays, to take a man down, you got to have some striking. You can't have zero striking. If you have zero striking, it's going to be very difficult to close the distance. Fighters today obviously are not naive. They're more experienced now. They know how to keep a grappler at bay. But I'm going to try to fast forward this here. So hopefully we can get to see a little bit of the groundwork here. Let me see. I believe he pulls guard early on. Does he pull guard? Yes, he does. I think he's going to pull guard right now. I haven't watched this fight in a very long time. But here we're going to see Kron pull guard here. And we can watch some of his guard magic. There it is. Here comes the guard. There you go. He's a guard puller. Now, you know what? I don't know if this will be an effective strategy at the top 5 in the UFC. I think this will be very difficult to pull off, especially because of the time limits. I gotta tell you right now, I don't think a lot of guys can hurt Kron from this position. I think if Kron is on the bottom and you put Max Holloway on top of him, or you put whoever you want on top of him, whoever you want, pick a guy from 145 and put him on top of Kron. There are very few guys that can do anything to him other than get up. And now in Vale Tudo, you could stay down and you could just sit there and protect yourself. And the guy's got to come on top of you. In Vale Tudo, you don't have to get back up. Now, this is not Vale Tudo. This is going to be UFC. So UFC ref is going to stand him up. UFC ref is going to stand him up. But if he had the choice to stay on the ground, if it was a Vale Tudo fight, if he can close his guard, never open it, and just kind of do what he's doing right now in front of your screen, there are very few guys on the face of the earth, in my opinion, that could beat Kron. And if there is no time limit, and this is all that's going to happen. Eventually, Kron's going to sub this guy. I mean, it's just a matter of time. There is very little to do on top of Kron here because his guard is going to be so hard to pass. Like, it's going to be ridiculously hard to pass. And even if you pass it, he's going to regard. He's going to find a way back. So here, I don't think Kawajiri can hurt him at all. Like, there you go. He's just giving up his back here. He might get away. If I remember correctly, he gets away from this one. But Kron eventually pulls guard again. I haven't watched this fight in a very long time, but I do remember the guard pulling. Brian Ortega versus Kron Gracie dream match. Well, that's from App 369. I don't know if that fight will happen. Those Ortega's trained by the family. Ortega's trained by Henner and Huron, so that might cause a major problem in the family. So I don't think that fight would happen. I think they would try to avoid that as much as possible. There's the second guard pull. There it is. And if he does this in UFC, I think the referees are eventually going to stand him up, and he won't be able to use this strategy. So I'm sure he's planning on learning wrestling, double legs, single leg. I'm sure he does do it already. Obviously, he's not crazy. Here's some nice guard work here, by the way. If you look at these nice little grips he's doing here. I mean, this is such a, already Kawajiri's in lots of trouble here. He's giving up his back here. I mean, this is a nightmare. But in UFC, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do. Why? Because the referee's not going to let you do this kind of stuff. The referee's going to intervene. If you pull guard and the guy on top's kind of stalling, they're going to stand you back up. Whereas in Japan, I think they're kind of letting Kron work a little more than most UFC refs would. That's just the feel I'm getting. Like right now, the UFC ref wouldn't stand you up here, but I think an American, not necessarily an American fighter, but a fighter in the UFC would know that if he kind of keeps Kron flat and just kind of waits, he'll get stood back up. And whereas Kawajiri didn't do that. Kawajiri was kind of trying to like smash pass and ground and pound, and that's not going to work against Kron. Kron's guard game is way too experienced. This one's from Chris. Have you been noticing some questionable instances of refs making people stand up recently? Yes, actually, Chris, I have seen that. And it's a tough call, because they want the action to continue. And there's no exact rule. There's no way for us to know when the referee is going to stand the fighters up and when he's not. Supposedly, they're supposed to give you a warning. They're supposed to tell you work. But sometimes I want to work. It's the guy I took down that's not, he's kind of wrapping me up and holding on tight to me. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the guy on top who's just kind of stalling. And he wants to get rewarded with a stand-up. So it's a tricky situation, it's a tough situation. Personally, I'm a purist. I would love the referee not to interfere at all. But I understand that, there's an entertainment value here. And it can be deadly to the sport. The sport can become really unpopular if we don't have stand-ups. If things stall, we have to intervene for the sake of the ticket buyers, the entertainment. And that's just part of the game. Here, Krone's doing some amazing back work here, and for some reason, I'm thinking that. Let me see. No, this is not over. I mean, he gets away. I think Kawajiri does get away. That's right. He survives the round. This was a round of on Kawajiri's back. I think there's gonna be another final guard pull. There it was. Let me rewind that here just a sec. Here it is. There's an early guard pull. So this will be the third guard pull. You know, we're talking about guard. This is a special episode on the guard. Here's a master of the guard. And how does he get the fight to the ground? He's going to grab his over-under. He's going to pull guard. And look at this. I think he finishes him here very shortly. And again, I just feel that Kawajiri doesn't have the experience to hurt a Krone. I mean, Krone can take his time here. If he had unlimited time, if this was a Vale Tudo fight, I think he would just, just be really relaxed here. And just he would know that he would be extremely confident that he'll eventually get something. Now, of course, there's a time limit. There's only 4 minutes left on the clock, so he's got to rush a little bit. Let's see here. How does he take the back? Let me rewind it real quick here. He's about to take the back here. Let's see what happens. Kawajiri with an attempted head kick. Stomp kick. And again, the same sequence as earlier. He kind of stomp kicks and gets wrapped up, and there you go. He's made a mistake, and I believe Kron's going to put that rear naked choke on him, and that's going to be the end. That's right. It's going to be the rear naked choke, and that is the end, my friends. Amazing guard work by Kron Gracie. Not surprised that he would win on the bottom. I think he can do a lot in UFC. However, the 3 5-minute rounds is going to be a problem. The referee stand-ups is going to be a problem. If his game is to pull guard the way he did in the Kawajiri fight, it's going to be a problem because the rule set is different. Just the rule set is different. Now, if it was Vale Tudo, no time limit, it would be different. It would be very different. What do you think about Ortega Ferguson's guards in MMA? That's from Jake. Jake, I love their guards. Their guards are amazing. So I think they've proved it time and time again that their jiu-jitsu is very effective in fighting, not just MMA. Okay, so I mean, I would take that, like if I was in a street fight with Tony Ferguson, street fight, and I was in his guard, and if I was in his guard, I would be worried. I'd be like, this guy's dangerous. This guy's dangerous. He elbows from his guard. He has a great way to protect himself. Even when he was mounted with Kevin Lee, he did a good job at avoiding shots. He was kind of rolling with the punches, and he was blocking and deflecting. He did get hit. I'm not saying he didn't get hit, but he did a good job, better than most, to protect himself from the mount of Kevin Lee. I mean, the mount of Kevin Lee you don't want to be there. And I was impressed. I got to say, I was impressed by his bottom game. And I think his bottom game works. Gi, no gi, no gi and MMA and street fighting. Tony Ferguson is a dangerous guy. Same goes for Brian Ortega. His jiu-jitsu will work in every situation. Can Kron Gracie be world champion in UFC? That's from Punit. Punit, I don't know, he'd have to show me he has takedowns. He'd have to show me he has good takedowns. And he has time to evolve, I think. He has time to evolve. He needs some really, really good trainers. But he definitely has time to evolve. But the guard pulls he used in Kawajiri are going to be... He's going to get stood up. He's going to get stood up quite a bit in UFC. Especially if the guys on the top kind of stall him. And that's what I think they're going to do. They're going to know he's Kron Gracie. They're going to be like, hey, don't get crazy on the ground. Block him, wait for the stand-up. And then he's going to be forced to box. Dihu, hi from Montreal. Hi, hello, Dihu. How are you? Okay, guys, don't forget we're talking about the guard. We're talking about BJJ. We are nerding out on BJJ. We're almost at the 1 hour mark. So let's get in our last few questions here about the guard. Talking about the guard, the importance of the guard. I highly recommend you guys, if you're starting jiu-jitsu, focus a lot of time on the guard. A lot of time on the guard, and then after that, a lot of time how to pass the guard. Okay, 80% of your training should be guard and pass the guard, and you should start by the guard. Because if you don't want to get caught in a triangle, you got to know what the guy's trying to do. You got to know what a triangle is. If you're trying to avoid armbar, you should know what armbar is. Omoplata from guard, why is it rare? That's from FIFA. That's a great question. I do omoplata all the time. I do omoplata all the time. I think it's one of those misunderstood moves. I think a lot of people just don't have a good omoplata. Now, when I say that, I'm talking more about the MMA community, okay? Because of course in BJJ you see a lot of omoplata. You see a lot of omoplata. Omoplata is a sophisticated, intelligent, high leverage maneuver. However, I think MMA fighters, they have to do so much in their career. They have to box, they have to do clinching, they have to do wrestling, they have to know the chokes, they have to know the body locks, they have to know the ground stuff. Omoplata is omoplata takes a type of dexterity in the legs. It takes a type of coordination in the legs, I should say, coordination. To control somebody's arm with your leg, most people's legs are too clumsy for that. They're just too clumsy. However, if you have highly trained legs, it's a very, very powerful maneuver. Me personally, when I have people on top of me that are very strong and athletic, usually I end up in omoplata. I don't like to triangle somebody. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the triangle choke. However, somebody with a very big neck and who's super strong, like a very somebody who be a lot heavier than me, and who's like a freak athlete with a big neck and a big. I don't like to triangle those guys. I like to omoplata, turn them over, get them underneath me, and then crush them. Why? Because when I'm doing the triangle, and I know there's a lot of ways to prevent the stacking and all that. Just their neck is so big. My legs, I don't have super long legs. I have medium legs. Their neck is so big that even if I get the full squeeze on their neck, like it's just so much work. Whereas if I put you in omoplata, I'm controlling you in a way that your athleticism doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really matter. And I got to do a video one day on omoplata. Like I've studied omoplata for so many years. I feel like I know a lot, almost what everything there is to know out there so far. I know there's going to be new innovations. Let's just put it this way. I know a lot about omoplata, and I use omoplata a lot. That's an understatement. Okay, so I love omoplata. I just find it such a sophisticated attack, and it takes a lot of coordination in legs. That's why you don't see it a lot in the MMA community. It will take too much time out of what they need to do. They have to do other things. Okay, and it's just too much time and energy for them. However, I do believe that if you have a good teacher, he could teach you omoplata. It also depends on the style of MMA you have. If you're very jiu-jitsu based, you should know omoplata. You know, if you're a guy who, when you get stuck on the bottom, you kind of scramble up to your feet, maybe omoplata is not that important for you. However, if you play the game of jiu-jitsu, you should definitely know everything there is to know to omoplata. It's a classic maneuver. You have armbar, triangle, omoplata. Those are the main three attacks. Okay, the main three attacks, no doubt. Those are the classics. Half guard in MMA too risky. That's from Daniel. No, I wouldn't say no. It depends what kind of half guard you're in. If I have an underhook and I'm kind of sitting up, I'm off my back, I've closed the distance. If I can close the distance in half guard, it's safe. It's very safe. However, if I cannot close the distance, if I'm half guard and there's a space between me and you, I should regard. In my opinion, you should regard. Okay. Can you talk about some sweeping concepts? That's from Mr. J Combo 7. Mr. J Combo 7. Sweeping concepts. I'm a big believer in butterfly guard. I love butterfly guard. When I'm getting taken down to the mat, if somebody scores a takedown on me, I like to do two things. I like to butterfly guard sweep, or I like to invert into the legs, into leg locks. So I use a lot of inverting into the legs. So I kind of spin into leg locks. And as I'm spinning to the leg lock, I use that to put your hips on the ground. So my leg lock kind of turns into a sweep. Or I also love butterfly guard sweeping. And I find that I might do a video on butterfly guard sweeping shortly. I don't know if I do. I'll probably do butterfly guard sweeping and then a second addition to either reverse de la Riva or guard pass prevention. But I definitely want to do a butterfly guard sweep video. I do a lot of butterfly guard sweeping, and I have like a really nice way of teaching butterfly guard that I think a lot of people haven't seen before, and I think it'll be interesting. I think the jiu-jitsu community would like to see that. Can Gordon Ryan catch Verdum in a heel hook? That's from Punit. Yes, I definitely do think so. You know, there's going to be a lot of guard game. I think Gordon's probably going to sit to guard. Verdum, I don't think has ever seen leg locks like this. He's from the old school jiu-jitsu. He's got great jiu-jitsu, but I don't think he's seen this kind of stuff before. So for those of you who don't know, they're doing like a combat jiu-jitsu match where there's slaps allowed on the ground. So there's no striking at all. From what I understand, I might be wrong about this, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Somebody was telling me about this at the gym. They were telling me that the rules are basically when you get to the ground, you can slap the guy. But standing up, there's no striking at all. It's just kind of wrestling. I think Gordon is smart enough, and he's training with John, so John's going to teach him how to protect himself, and he's going to eventually get to the leg lock. However, if there's a time limit, that should play a major factor. But if there was no time limit, I think eventually Gordon subs him. But since there is a time limit, and I don't know what it is, hopefully it's very, very long, because obviously Verdum can defend himself. He knows what he's doing. He's a big, strong guy. The time limit may be a big problem, because when there's strikes involved, you can kind of stall and strike and kind of like protect yourself. You just got to tough it out till the clock rings. So if stalling is allowed, it's going to be hard to leg lock a guy who's stalling. Could Khabib ground and pound Kron Gracie and his ground and pound in others? That's from Lasauri. Could he ground and pound Kron Gracie? Well, listen, if it's a time limit, yes. If there's no time limit, it's going to be that would be interesting. Let's just put it to you that way. That would be super, super interesting. If Kron had no time limit and he could just kind of relax and kind of, be economical and look for the great opportunity, a perfect opportunity, I think it's possible he wins off his back. However, with a time limit, I think it would be difficult, very difficult. I personally, if I was under Khabib, I would try to sweep, submit, or get up. I would want to get back up and I want to strike, because there's the time limit. You have to rush. You can't just sit there and kind of control and relax and kind of like get him to work for nothing. You can't do that. You don't have the time for that. Not just slaps, palm strikes too. Well, that's what I meant. I think, yeah, you got to hit open hand, right? So you're right. With the palm, you can do a lot of damage with a palm. So, yes, I think that's the rule set that they're going into. Sinan, please behave. I don't want to have to put you in a timeout. Jones versus Gus. Oh no, we're not doing that. We're doing jiu-jitsu today. How can beginners decide what BG gym is a good one to go to? Well, Safe, you gotta try it first. I would recommend you do a trial. Pay the day pass or ask to see if they have a free trial, and make sure you have a good instructor. Make sure you have an instructor that teaches properly, and you'll know it when he shows you something. You should be amazed and it should look really interesting. And then it should work when you try it on the mat. Okay, that's also a very big component. I believe, like, if you guys get the instructional I'm talking about, I believe that when you drill them, it's gonna work. Like everybody who got De La Riva lockdown, they're all telling me. I get messages almost every day. People telling me how much they love it. They want to see part 2, and it worked. It really works. Yes, these techniques really work. Okay, they really work. They work for the vast majority of you. These are my favorite techniques. These are not something that I do on the side. These are like core moves that I trust. And believe me when I tell you, I've seen countless moves. I've studied countless moves. These are the gems. Okay, so these are serious gems. I asked the same question 17 times already. Well, Adam Zahabi, please ask it one more time. I'm looking out for you, my friend. I am getting a lot of questions, so unfortunately I missed yours. Adam, I'll look it up. Would you please answer? Adam, I'm trying to answer, my friend. Let me see here if I can scroll back up. Can Gordon Ryan beat Badr Hari in a street fight? Okay, good question, Adam. And you're persistent, so I will answer this. Where are they? Are they watching a soccer game and then they break out a fight in the middle of the field? Like they kind of like walk in an open field somehow? Or are they in a really, really large mall where Badr Hari will have time to move around? Or are they in an enclosed environment? Are they in a crowded restaurant and bumped into each other and now they're about to go? Are they in I don't know, on a bus, both riding on a bus, and one man took another man's seat and now they're about to go, and it's a very closed, cramped area? If it's a close, cramped area, for sure Gordon's going to win. Gordon can wrestle. For those of you, who are not aware of who Gordon Ryan is, he's a world champion in jiu-jitsu, but he's also a very good, very, very good wrestler, competent wrestler. He'll have Badr Hari down on the ground and choked out in no time. Now, however, if Badr Hari had an open space, then he'll have a puncher's chance. I still think he would lose if they fought 10 times, I still think he would lose like 9 times out of 10. But he'd have a puncher's chance. To my knowledge, Badr Hari doesn't wrestle at all. So he'll throw a flying knee kick. Gordon will grab onto him and it'll be over. But if he knocks him out with the first strike, he can win. But I doubt he would. Unlikely. Let's just say unlikely. Is this video only on guard prevention, or can I seriously ask you anything for us? Well, that's from Vidal Vader. Okay, look, it is an AMA. You got me. Okay, so I said I would do the majority of this video on guard pass prevention. We are at over the 1 hour mark, so go ahead, shoot. Ask me anything, guys. Let's open it up to ask me anything. I did name it an ask me anything. This is an ask me anything. So let's go ahead. We can break now from the topic, and I'll go a little bit longer, and let's do any question whatsoever. Go ahead. What do we got here? Does Mayweather embarrass Nasukawa? Yes. You know what? The thing is, listen, how many rounds is that? If I heard somebody telling me that it's just an exhibition and it's only 3 rounds. If it's just 3 rounds, no, it's going to be very competitive. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be a blowout. If he's doing 12 rounds with him, yeah, Mayweather will just starch him after 4 or 5. He'll just start starching him. Okay, it'll just be like it'll just be a one-sided beating. However, Mayweather is not. He's not the type of guy who takes crazy risks. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna study him. He's gonna jab at him. He's gonna let his opponent work. And by the time that's done, he's gonna be studying him. Mayweather's a thinker. He doesn't just go out there and and do whatever. He could be a bit seem as a slow starter. If it is 3 rounds, somebody told me it was 3 rounds. Somebody was talking to me about it, and they told me it was 3 rounds. I don't know if that's true though. If you guys can put it in the comments. Anybody who knows. But if it's a 3-round, 3-minute exhibition, I don't think it'll be, it's going to be kind of like back and forth. It's going to be like a fun little match. They probably won't be going for the kill. It's just a 3-rounder. It's not like something you could really, to take out a very experienced guy, you need more than three rounds. You need to set him up. It can happen, guys. It could always happen, a knockout early. These things can happen, but a guy who's on his guard, who's careful, who's balanced, who's super well trained, who's a counter-punching machine, like these guys are not always going to get knocked out in round 1. That's actually statistically highly unlikely. Okay, statistically highly unlikely. So if it is true that it's only 3 rounds, no, I don't think it's going to seem more even than it would if it was a 12-rounder. Okay, what else we got here? Daniel Hare. Oh, we do an AMA? In that case, how should I handle fraught political conversations with the in-laws? Don't get me talking about my in-laws, Daniel. You don't want to hear about my in-laws. Okay. Count your blessings. Count your blessings, my friend. If you guys want to have an in-law competition, you're going to lose when it comes to me. You know what, Daniel? Here's my advice, to be honest with you. Okay, if you love your wife, you can be nice to your in-laws, regardless of their political views. Be nice to them. At the end of the day, they have the right to their own political views. They can think whatever they want. Most people you're going to run into in life, Daniel, are illogical. Most people are illogical. And logic is a question of degrees. There can always be somebody more logical than you, and you seem illogical to this person who's higher, because, the study of logic is a very complex and a difficult journey. And when I meet somebody who's, less logical than me, I just think, there's somebody who was patient with me and kind of, nursed me until I became more and more logical and kind of helped me on, to grow. And there was some guys who were on top of me that kind of stepped on me and insulted me. And now today, if I'm higher or even with them now, I remember how they treated me, so be gentle with people who are, haven't studied the fine art of reason. Okay. Some people who haven't studied the fine art of reason, just be gentle with them, cross-examine them, be nice to them. But also, you got to tell yourself they're on their journey. They're on their journey to, becoming more enlightened as a person. And they do no harm by being illogical other than to themselves. So if you're going to be illogical, it doesn't harm me. If you're being illogical, I don't see it as harming me. I think that people got to divorce themselves from that idea. A lot of people, they come across somebody who's being illogical and they get all upset that person's being illogical. Excuse me. Well, my question is, why do you get so upset? How does that affect you? If being illogical is beneficial, then, and you're being logical, then you benefit from being logical. Go ahead, benefit. What is so empowering about being logical if you're not gonna feel that empowerment? Like I mean, if you're, and I find this a strange behavior from a lot of people. People get upset that others don't behave the way they want them to. Well, you just behave the way you're preaching. You know, whatever you're preaching, you behave that way and you reap the benefits. If that person doesn't want to reap the benefits, that's your advantage. That's just to your advantage. You're going to outcompete them. You're going to outcompete them. If being so logical and so politically, uh, um, um, politically aware is beneficial, then go ahead. You reap the benefits, and just don't let them get under your skin. How do you reconcile martial arts, philosophy, and religion? Much respect from Texas. That's from Jacob. Well, Jacob, you know what? I think those are very separate topics. Martial arts is a separate topic from philosophy and religion. No, I think religion and philosophy have a lot to do with each other. You can have a philosophy of martial arts, definitely. Okay, and I feel that martial arts can help you with philosophy and religion because they're going to give you like a healthier mind, a healthier body. Like a healthier body, then that's going to help you have a healthier mind. And when you have a healthier mind, you can be a greater philosopher and a religious thinker. However, I think there's a major misconception. A lot of people think that religion has to do with reason alone. Religion has a lot to do with something called intuition. Intuition. So there's some things you cannot verbalize. You cannot verbalize certain aspects of human knowledge, and they have to be expressed in a way that's via either analogy or metaphor, and these deeper truths are known via intuition, and not pure reason. Now, pure reason is part of intuition. It's part of it. However, intuition is a step higher. So we have the senses, then we have reason, and then we have intuition. Intuition, I love how Leibniz put it. I love how Leibniz put it best. He says, look, you look at your conscious mind. You know, your conscious mind, he says, if I was really tiny and I walked around your mind like your mind was a museum, I would see blood flow, I would see neurons, I would see all sorts of biology. However, I wouldn't see anything about your consciousness, right? And he says, look, I don't see anything about your consciousness. So how do we know the consciousness exists? Well, we only know it one way. We know it intuitively through first-person experience. And that first-person experience is undeniable. It's undeniable. So there's more to knowledge than just pure sense experience and logic. This is a great argument made by Leibniz, and other great thinkers made it. And they pose, many great thinkers pose it in different ways. But the truth of the matter is, you did not come to know of your consciousness by logic and science. You did not. You did not. No way. There's no amount of studying the brain and MRIs. There's no amount of blood tests. There's no amount of logical deduction that will make you conclude human consciousness. So we have to say, okay, well, how do we know it? We have to come up with a new term. And a lot of people come up with different terms throughout the ages. And that's if you look up the history of the soul, where the idea of the word soul comes from, well, the soul is known by intuition. Now, one of the most famous logicians in history, Immanuel Kant, said the soul is, well, he was referring to it as intuition. He says it cannot be detected because it is the detector. Now we have a new category because we have this thing outside of science and science and deductive reasoning. So that's why I think religion is. It's in the world of intuition. For anybody who's ever read Imam Ghazali, Al-Jalani, or Ibn Arabi, they were great thinkers that actually did a lot of writings on intuitions and what we can know from intuition. And it's quite a fascinating, very fascinating authors, very fascinating material to read. We got another super chat. That's from Aderns. Coach, I believe you said that Joe Rogan podcast that you had bad sciatica at one point. Is that correct? I was wondering if you could please talk a bit about your journey to recovery. Thank you. Others, that is very correct. Okay, well, let me tell you, I'll go through that again. Okay, I'll go through sciatica, and maybe we'll end it on the sciatica, because sciatica is for those of you who've never had sciatica is a torture. Sciatica is torture, man. I had sciatica badly for 2 years. Oh man, it was torture. Like I'm telling you, like it was a nightmare. That was one thing that was stopping me from training. Like, and I was really like, I'm telling you, it was unbelievably painful. Like when I would go to bed, I couldn't sleep. I was in so much horrific pain. So listen, I'm big into Kelly Starrett's work, The Supple Leopard. I'll type it in real quick. I know I talk about it all the time, so I'll keep it super brief. Supple Leopard. I'm actually just gonna write the book out for you so you could see it. Kelly Starrett, and then I'm just gonna move on. Okay, I won't talk too much about Supple Leopard. It's a great book. Read it, memorize it. That's one large chunk of the solution. There's something else that I did for many years that I still do today that really alleviates the pressure from my back. What I do is I lie down flat on the floor. Okay, this is one of the greatest ways I've found to decompress your back. Okay, so you lie down flat on the floor. You put a little pillow behind your head, okay, to make sure your head is a little bit elevated so you don't have too much pressure in your head. And then you put your legs, you lift up your legs on a chair. You rest them on your chair, and your legs should be 90 degrees. Okay, so your thigh bones are perpendicular to the ground, and your shin bones are parallel to the ground. And you just sit there and let your back naturally decompress. You just sit there and your back naturally decompress. And if you can put one of those two lacrosse balls that are taped together on the lumbar spine. So if you go on the lumbar spine, you put them under there. And the reason why you want to put your feet up on the chair like the way I described is so that your back remains neutral. Okay, so if I were to put two lacrosse balls taped together, okay, they call them the peanut, If I were to put that on my back and my legs were straight and my whole body's flat on the floor, I'm kind of arching my spine like this. You don't want to do that. You're compressing the L4, L5. Okay, so you don't want to put your back out of alignment. You want your back in alignment. So without the lacrosse ball, my back's already decompressing. I'll sit there for like an hour, 90 minutes. But if I put a lacrosse ball in there, it'll unlock the lower back. And I feel like I have to unlock the lower back. I have to unlock the glutes. I have to unlock the hamstrings. And for that, I use the timtam.tech. Okay, guys, by the way, timtam.tech has put the T1.5. So the Tim Tam Power, the world's most powerful massager. It's half off right now. I should have mentioned it earlier. It's at $199 right now. They have the new timtam.tech is coming out with a new high-powered massager, the 2.0. It's going to be like $600. It's a much more expensive machine. It's a lot more powerful. It's got all these new features. But the original, the 1.5, the Tim Tam Power, is now officially $200. I really recommend you get one of those. I massage my glutes. I massage my hamstrings. I do a lot of the alignment exercises. And slowly, I got rid of my sciatica. Now, here's another gem. I did a lot of abdominals. Doing abdominals helped me, but I didn't do any sit-ups. You got to do a plank. I don't know if you know what a plank is, but look it up. Just do a simple Google search for plank here. I can do it real quick. I'm sure I can find somebody doing a plank online quite easily. Hold plank here. Plank is a very common exercise, very simple. I'm just going to find anybody here that's doing a plank here. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Okay, so here's a plank exercise here. Let me find it for you. Give me 1 second. This exercise is super good. Why? Because it doesn't flex your lower spine. Okay, it doesn't flex your lumbar spine. And by flexing your lumbar spine, you might aggravate your spine. Okay, you don't want to aggravate your spine. You just want to be sure to strengthen the abdominal area without flexing the lumbar spine. Now there are many other great ab exercises. Okay, but we want to make sure we have an ab exercise that doesn't aggravate the lumbar spine. And this is one that's going to build a lot of power and stability. And I recommend you get up to 5 minutes. You should be able to hold this for 5 minutes. Now, do some research on how to do a plank properly, because there's a lot of pitfalls, and I won't go over them here. You need demonstration. So get a good video on the plank from a trusted trainer and work the plank. The plank, when you have good abs, it's like wearing a protective belt for your back. Okay, I highly recommend plank. Me personally, I do 5 minutes. Once I reach 5 minutes, I stop. I've never held the plank longer than 5 minutes. I don't feel that I need to. I feel if you can hold the plank for 5 minutes, your abs are good to go. And then I just move on to other ab exercises. Now, most people have trouble holding it for 1 minute. So what I recommend is you hold the plank for about, 80% of what you can do. Let's say that's a minute. Okay, don't go to your maximum. Just about do 80%. Get a nice little workout. The next day, try to repeat that until 1 minute becomes easy. Then go to a minute 20. Then go to a minute 50. And just keep building till you hit 5 minutes. Once you hit 5 minutes, man, you won't have to do a 5 minute plank more than I think once a year to keep your abs strong. Like you can do planks throughout the year. You can do other ab exercises, but you won't have to go to 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time holding planks. So you can get away with doing 2 minute planks, 3 minute planks. You're keeping your abs strong. Your abs are maintaining their strength. And once in a while, hit that 5 minute mark. I find more than 5 minutes is just too long. And I just don't have the patience to hold for more than 5 minutes. So if you want to hold it for more than 5 minutes, I think it's just too mind-numbingly boring. So what I would do if I wanted more challenge, I would probably do it with my feet elevated. I would find a way that would be more intense. Maybe put a weight on your back. Maybe have one of your kids sit on your back while you're doing the plank. But 5 minutes was my own personal mental threshold. After that, I would just kind of get supremely bored. The plank is super important. Keeping your body aligned is super important. And kneading those muscles, making sure those muscles are never tight. And check out that book, Kelly Starrett. I put it in the comment section for you. If you want to look it up, buy that book, memorize it, learn it, study it. It's a great book. And hopefully your sciatica will go away. I personally never used pills. I never used drugs. I never used medication. I did my own physiotherapy. I researched it myself and I did it myself. I did very little physio, very, very little. I did it myself. Why did I do it myself? I just found that Kelly's stuff was just it was so easy to understand. I just found his material was really easy to do. And I found I got great results. I got great results using his techniques and my pain started getting better and better immediately. And I did work with Gavin McMillan from SSL. We did do some work together and he helped me a lot as well. But he kind of put me on the path, And it was similar to what Kelly does, keeping the body aligned, keeping the muscles supple, and neutralizing your spine, keeping your abs tight when you're lifting weights, etc. Creating torque, creating tension in your abs, and creating torque in your knees and your shoulders, always being properly aligned. These are very important concepts that will keep you from having sciatica. Now, I'll tell you guys something. If I didn't come across these solutions, I would have retired from jiu-jitsu. I would have just been a coach. I would not have been able to withstand that pain. I don't know how people wrestled regularly without, these kind of therapeutic solutions. I think a lot of them must have done a lot of swimmings. I know, when I used to train with the Canadian wrestling team, a lot of the old school Russian guys, they would go to the pool afterwards. So they would wrestle, then would go to the pool, and it was like sauna or pool. And I realize now it makes sense. Their body's so tight from wrestling. Pool is so good for recovery. It's a great rehab tool. If you have access to a pool. Sauna, they sauna all the time after practice. Makes sense. It loosens up the muscles. It's kind of like getting a massage. And then when I went and I trained with the Thais in Thailand, I used to spend my summers in Thailand. They were huge on massage. Thailand is huge on massage. They would do Muay Thai all day, then they would get a massage, and the fighters would massage one another, and that's how they would keep their bodies healthy. It makes sense. Now, in our culture, dudes massaging each other after practice is kind of weird. It doesn't go with our culture. So you buy yourself a timtam or get a good lacrosse ball and get a foam roller and do it that way. But in Thailand, it's not taboo at all. For one of your buddies to massage you is not taboo at all. I'll tell you a quick funny story before we wrap this up. One time I was in Thailand. I was eating in a restaurant and I went to the bathroom and I was using the urinal. And as I was using the urinal, now I didn't know this. This is my first time, this happened to me. It's the first time. Some guy comes up to me and starts rubbing my shoulders. Now I'm using the urinal now. Right now I'm using the urinal. So when he grabbed my shoulders, I thought, hey, I was like, wait a second, this is not right. So I kind of jumped up. I was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, he was like, no. Like he was just begging, like, no, I was just gonna massage you. I'm like, I don't want. Why the hell would you massage me? Why the hell would you massage me? And then my Thai friends were laughing. They're like, no, he just wants a tip. He's going to massage you for a tip. So I was like, look, I'll give him a tip. Don't massage me. I'll tip you not to massage me. And I ended up giving him a tip not to massage me. And every time I would go to urinal, we'd go eat there. And eventually I realized, everybody's getting a massage. And I was like, you know what, man? Just let the guy massage you. For goodness sake, that's his job. I kind of It's just a culture clash. I was like, look, this is not weird. It's their culture. In their culture, the guy's just massaging your shoulder because he wants a tip. That's how he puts food on the table. And other people who are letting, the massage guys massage them while they're at the urinal. I know, super weird for us, but then I was like, why am I going to let this guy make money? That's what he does for a living. And, their economy, their lives are very different. And I was like, you know what? I got used to it. I used to go to urinal, have my shoulders massaged, and I just learned to accept it. Funny story from Thailand. So if you're ever in Thailand, some guy massages you, I really recommend you, first of all, be in a good place, because there's some places you don't want to be massaged in Thailand, believe me. But that was just an innocent guy just trying to earn a living. And I just kind of made my peace with it. But at the end of the day, here in Canada, in Canada, North America, it's better you have a timtam. Use a timtam. It's a lot more socially acceptable. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Please make sure to check out my newest instructional, Zahabi's favorite past preventions. Okay, so check it out. Enjoy it. Leave a review. Let me know what you guys think. And hopefully I'll make more videos shortly. And thank you for tuning in. See you all in the next episode. Thank you.